Hello everyone. I will make this description of my work mostly around one theme, which is the definition of an image more than a photographic image. So I've mostly worked around photography, but in the past few years I'm starting to get interested in what is the definition of an image. And so for me an image is many things, and it considers different senses. In my case, I was intrigued in this idea of being influenced by sound, by touch, by, of course, the visual sense, of course, but also above what we can see, because what we see is an impression, but there's a lot more than what we see right now. There's a lot more. For instance, your clothes are touching your skin right now, and you are not really aware of it until now because I'm mentioning it. But lots of filters are built up to make you focus on certain things, and so you are not aware necessarily of what the sounds are. I mean, there's micro sounds, there are sounds that you're not hearing right now. There's ventilation in there, and so there's lots of things that are surrounding us. And this whole idea for me was to try to work with these elements and to try to create images, including this awareness, this augmented awareness, if I can say so. Is the sound okay? Does everyone hear me well? Yeah. Okay. So I will mostly show you work that I have done in this regard. So I will start by this new project that I did, which is called Perpetual Promiscuity, and it's a series of appropriation of images that I did in this residency called Centre Photographic d'Île-de-France, which is CPIF, and they have a residency, by the way, if you guys have post-production residency, and you work in their lab and you work for 3 months on a specific project. In my case, it was this project where I tried to work with a series of appropriated images. As you can see here, I don't know if you realize what this is. The title of the image is called Sniper. Camouflage, and so of course you realize that this is a camouflaged sniper, and so there's an intervention that is it's a series of printed images, and I painted over them with oil paint, and also I did this collage of aluminium foil collage as well. You don't really see it on this image here, but there's a close-up here. And you can see there's a little aluminium foil collage right there on the lower right part. The images are offsetted, so there's this offset on all the images to create this. For me, it was a really interesting element to consider, because the spray paint has this, of course, this. You can see the resemblance between there's a confusion between the spray paint dots and the actual dots of this offset image. And so this series that I'm showing here, there's also this one, which is called Dance Marathon. These are anonymous images. This one is apparently dating from the 20s. I have a friend who works in fashion history and established that this dress and haircut was from the 20s, or even 15 or whatever. And so you've got this image of this couple almost falling down because they seem to be the winners of this dance marathon. You know, these endless 24 or 48-hour dance marathons where the winners would be the last one standing on the dance floor. This intervention of, again, you see more these foil collage on the spots there, the white spots. On the actual prints, there's this reflective quality of it. So you have this image in front of you, and the reflection of the actual collage foil is forcing you to realize that you're actually standing in front of it and watching an image. It takes you out of the image and makes you realize that it breaks the I don't know if I'm clear, but it's like these, you know, when Godard was putting these phrases and the words appearing during the movie, it was somehow forcing you to be conscious that you're actually, you know, watching a movie, and so you're taken out of the movie, and then you go back in and out and back in, and so this idea of duality for me was an interesting element to work with. And again, you see the duality with these dots, the offset dots and the actual dots of the oil paint, spray paint. Again, this one here, where it's completely absurd and I don't really know what's happening here. I presume it's a Halloween night costume from the 30s or something like that. But what interests me in this image, or as well as the previous ones, is this fact that the image has some kind of a sense, and I'm decontextualizing it dramatically by my intervention with the paint. If you look at this one here, there's this, I mean, if you really know what a dance marathon is, it's not necessarily a positive thing. It's really some kind of a desperate act sometimes for people to make money, and for me this intervention has some kind of a ludic, can you say that in English, ludic? Sense, and it somehow breaks the whole, and the same thing with this sniper killer here, the sniper camouflage here. So there's always this double sense, the confrontation of sense through this original image and then this intervention I'm doing on that. And so again, you've got this tremendous energy flow coming out of the arms with this really bizarre character that seems to be in a really, really passive mood. So again, you've got this other offsetted image with the spray paint. Again, what is the meaning of this image? I have no idea, but I thought it was really interesting to work with. So this one here is a burning house in the middle of the night. And then with this intervention, you're not too sure if it seems to be some kind of a fun, I don't know, feu d'artifice, how do you say it in English? Fireworks, but then again it's a destructive situation, a dramatic situation, but it's suddenly transformed. The close-up here. This project here is called Toshi Sticky, and it's actually in this idea of doing something and intervening within the privacy of other people, as a little bit like a paparazzi would do. I was intrigued by, this was when I was living in New York. I was going to different parties, and basically I did these shots of my roommate, and actually I was not shooting my roommate, I was actually shooting people in the background. And then I was blowing up the images. So this is some kind of, you know, there's these micro stories that you're not aware of, that you can work with in the background. Again, this goes back to this idea of what are you aware of and what do you filter out. And for me, this is a really interesting posture, body language, this pull of the microphone, because there was a band playing as well. So everything goes well for me in this picture. You know, this red dress on the upper left part, the head with the eyes on the lower part. All the eyes are blasted up because of the flash, you know. And you've got the pixelization of the image itself gives a really interesting texture, I think. And so texture with images is something that I like to work with. As you've seen in the previous series, there's the offset to the filter, and then now you've got the pixelization of the image here. The flash has some kind of a really interesting reaction with any type of reflecting matter. So these people didn't really know I was actually aiming at them. So, and yeah, so you've got all these characters, these fraction of a second moments that you can grasp there. You've got the shirt is perfect with the hat, and the guy has this really strong smile and weird look, you know, it works really well for me, anyways. And then you've got this really bizarre situation that I managed to catch, you know. What the hell was going on there? Where's that guy going? What's up there? And anyways, so, and you've got, sometimes I think some people actually saw that I was taking pictures of them. And yeah, so I don't know exactly, but sometimes it comes out really, yeah, so. Again, someone that I think saw that I was actually taking a picture of them, so. This other project, again, it's around this idea of things that we are not aware of that surrounds us. I'm interested in this series. I'm interested in these mechanical gestures that we have, things that we do every day, but we don't realize that we do them, or if we do, we don't realize how many muscles are actually activated to do these gestures. And so, in this series here, you've got a series of mechanical gestures. Again, there's a texture of the image, and in this case, these are monochromatic. The tie, the key. How many times do we use a key, and how many muscles do we actually activate to do that? And going up the stairs. So yeah, this series here. If I'm going too fast, you tell me. This other one here is again is another way for me to use the actual image, the paper, the matter itself. I mean the photographic paper. In this case, I actually printed out the paper, and I did some holes in the actual photographs and put a light spot behind it, and then re-photographed my photograph like that, creating a new image. And so you would not be able to have this effect if you would see the actual photographic paper with the lamp behind it. It really needs to be in a specific angle and shot with a specific speed. And so this brings this idea of how to use in other way the actual photographic material. Again, another example. And I did this in the same way of this photographic, like a paparazzi method, let's say. These people are having a conversation right now. What are they talking about? Where are they going? Yeah. And then you have this one here, which is a new project called Probable improbabilities. and it's actually a photographic installation, if you can say, gathering a video, a projected video, which is projected a little bit on the actual photographic image. You've got also, in this case, a fossil tooth that I photographed. And the upper left corner, some documentation about the actual fossil tooth. What I did is basically I found this fossil tooth. It's called the Mosasaurus. It's a dinosaur, a marine dinosaur that lived 60 to 90 million years ago. And it's the equivalent of the Tyrannosaurus rex, but for the seas. It actually kills everything that lives in the sea, and it actually eats itself, eats other Mosasaurus. It has no predators, so it's a really big dinosaur. It weighs like 20 tons, and this tooth here, I actually buried it in a location on this planet where it actually never lived. This dinosaur actually never lived on the planet. So this transplantation of an object in another area where it would never have been logically found is an intervention where I'm actually playing with paleontologists of the future. This is a multiple, for me it's a performance itself, it's a video, it's a photography piece, and the performance itself will conclude itself in I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of years from now, when the actual tooth will be found again, and it will not be pertinent to have been found there because of the location. First of all, there was no marine life in that area, and second of all, the actual stone constitution of the fossil does not match whatever was around it. So, that being said, for me, it's a, I don't know, I cannot call this as a photographic project, you know, it's a, you've got this information here about the actual fossil, again, you know, 17 meters long, 20 tons, and then you've got this really bizarre image describing it's really strange, actually. When I saw this, I thought it's the perfect image to include in this project. So again, an appropriation of image. This girl is posing a little bit like a hunting trophy of this dinosaur, and I don't know. It's so bizarre that I thought it would, you know, it needed to be included in the project to create this awkward element in the series. This is not, for me, this is not a scientific piece, of course, but it's inspired by science and history and archaeology and paleontology. And this is the video excerpt here. I mean, there's still an image still of me going in the dark, burying that tooth. Where, I mean, when is it going to be found? I have no idea. But when it's going to be found, it will be the conclusion of the piece itself. This is a close-up. Again, there's this offset quality of the image. Right. Okay, so we're going back to photography now. This is more. This is a photographic series called Scenes and Types. They could be considered as installation work. But they are not, because these are on-site location found elements that I did not modify. Wrapping again. So, yeah. And then I got back into being interested in the process itself and tried to deconstruct the photographic process. In this case, I tried to use leaves and flowers that I found on the location, and I put them in front of the lens to get these colorful casts. mixed up with the image. In this case, I always like to use whatever I find in the environment. This crack on the wall behind goes all the way to the head and is continuation with the body language. You know, the shape, the wave is almost like a mirror effect. And then you've got this situation going in the back of the bushes. You don't really know what's going on. There's information, hidden information. This is the continuity of a project I did in collaboration with Arcade Fire for their multiple album covers of the Suburbs, their previous album, not the last one. There was 8 different album covers that were selected. This is a bit, actually, I shot a series of urbanscapes. And then what I did is we went back to Montreal and we projected these urbanscapes on the screen and put a car in front of them. And then I re-photographed my photograph with that car between. And this concept was related to their album. They had this idea of suburban, they needed this suburban quality. These are images of how it was done. This is the main album cover that they had. They did various things, the postcards as well. And I put them behind the actual screen, so we had these shadows, nothing was photoshopped in. And you've got the silk, like the texture of the image that the designer did, Caroline Robert. These are the images, photographs. So for me it was interesting. I needed to use these elements and create these casts on the actual images because and you always have these closed windows where you don't have access to the information. There's things going on, but you don't have access to them. You just need to imagine what's going on. And you've got these filters in front of the lens. So again, there's something before the actual subject. So the filter is there to take you out of the image and then make you realize that you're actually looking at an image. Again, the closed windows, bushes in front of them, trees in front of them. You don't have access to the information, the fences. And voila.
I would like to start with one question, since we are in an art school. So, do you have any significant experience, like learning experience, being an artist, photographer? Something that you learned from the past that is really significant for you as a learning experience?
You mean as a student?
No, I mean as a photographer, as an artist. Something that you learn after school that is really important. And since here we have so many students, I mean, it could be important for them to see, you know, how a professional.
Well, you always learn. But I think that the first thing that I gained after school was confidence a bit more, you know, because the more you shoot, the more you get some confidence and the more you know the actual tools that you're using. And by the fact that you know more and more the tools that you're using, you become more able to focus on the creative process. If you're blocked by this technical obstacle of trying to understand the mechanism of the flash system, the camera, or whatever other tool that you're using, of course it's something that, you know, after school you start to, the more you shoot, the more you gain this confidence, and then the more you are able to focus on your creative process more and more. And also because you're less intimidated by the process itself. And also the models. I mean, I remember when I was in school, I was so shy to ask people in the street to pose for me. and but it's part of the process. You know, you need to be able to overcome this shyness with the models, and this is something also that I was able to do, you know, as years went by.
Hey. Can you talk more about how you edit your work, or in the sense of how do you pick when you work in archive, other people's archive, and after that, how do you recontextualize that? For example, when you recrop your own images, which is at the same time almost working with archival imagery.
Mm.
So what is the process for you when editing?
Well, it depends on each project. When I start a project, I need to find sort of specific images. So usually I don't really know what I'm looking for, because of course this is the whole idea of discovering a new world that you're not aware of. And once you see these images, in my case, that's how I work. When I see these images, I have there's a reason for me to select this or that image. It's a really long process, because to be able to find 10 images, I go through probably months of looking at images every day. And once I do find them, I don't want to contextualize them, I want to decontextualize them and transform them. Of course, this is, you know, to connect them, to connect the series together. So it has to make sense that this series works well together, and then it cohabitates. It always depends on the actual concept of the project. So it's difficult to say, there's no specific recipes, of course. And sometimes I do alterate them physically. So there's like this Photoshop retouching, for instance. Some of them I really modify. Some of them I modify by the concept, and there's no physical alteration.
And so where do you find these pictures? Where do you look for them? Magazines, or is it
just about everywhere? Yeah. It's really, really a long, hard-working task.
So I'm sure
the web,
you keep a
printed.
stock of them.
I'm
The house and then
No, not yet. Well, I don't want to become an archivist. I want to be specifically doing these projects individually, and yeah, at this point I don't feel the need to really accumulate physical material.
So you're saying you don't like to accumulate physical material, but on the other hand, I see that many of your images play with the texture of offset prints.
Yes.
Just like if you you have like piles of magazines, and like because this quality is very typical also of like scanning images in magazines. And I don't know, there is something about that specific texture that you seem to use a lot. Why that?
Well, I think that you just said some element that is a key element. Magazines. For me, these images, when you put this offset filter on them, you make them. I mean, they were not at the beginning. They were not dotted like this. It's some filter that I put into them so that they have this texture now. You automatically make a direct connection with the printed material, printed media, magazines. And when you see an image, I'm interested in this duality of how do you consider an image when it is taken from a magazine as opposed to an image if it is printed on a photographic paper and exhibited in a gallery. You have these two ways of understanding and analyzing them. When you analyze a media magazine image, you consider it in a specific way. You believe in it more, first of all. And the artistic image, let's say artistic image, is something that you are more open to because it has to convey some kind of a really complete observation, information, factual elements, well, then you choose not to believe in them, but you know that they were meant.
Fashion magazines are not documentary.
Well, when you're looking at, no.
Or
well,
advertisement.
No, advertisement, well, they always, well, fashion runway
There's a lot of
images.
visual images in the media as much as.
Yeah, well, I'm not really talking, I'm mostly talking about the media as news references. So this type of relationship that we have with them, we are automatically believing them because this is the way we, at least in our generation and the one or two generations before, this idea of the image, printed image, raises many questions in that regards, I think.
And you give that effect artificially, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Well.
Is that like it feels quite recurrent? So I was wondering why
no,
it was maybe like something very
personal.
very personal, yeah.
Well, it is
Rather
somehow, but today I decided to choose these specific images because it was around this idea of the definition of an image in my own projects. So, as opposed to photography, because I started photography before, at the beginning, and people know me as a photographer mostly. And so this lecture here of my work is a selection of these images that I don't consider as pure photography, but more as images. That's why there's this selection that somehow have many texture elements and lights and these different ways of working with the image. Yeah, so that's the explanation.
I was wondering how you became inspired by intervening with the photograph, by bringing the viewer out, by making the viewer kind of more aware that they're looking at an image as opposed to, looking at a printed image, looking at a photographic piece of art which has been created by an artist. How you became inspired to basically make the viewer more aware of that.
When I lived in New York, I had the possibility of meeting conceptual artist Robert Barry, and somehow it opened lots of new perspectives for me. It was really an inspiring source. If I remember correctly, there was one of his phrases that was all the things that I know of, but I'm not thinking at the moment. I'm not too sure if I'm quoting it well. But that was one of his pieces, and then there was also the date here. So it's really this idea. For me, this phrase was really opening lots of possibilities. So conceptual artists in New York was a really big source of inspiration for me.
Hi. Sorry. Yeah, I was just. I thought it was interesting that something that seems to kind of keep reoccurring in a lot of the images is actually questions of limitation of what the image is kind of capable of doing, and I thought that kind of came out in particularly the ones of the suburbs, in which you can't see into the buildings, and then sort of like there's a way in which you're almost kind of fetishizing what can we kind of extract from these images, like as hard as you can. I was wondering if you experience a kind of a degree of like frustration with the image itself, if that's a sort of a thing which comes out, because that's you having frustration with medium.
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't use the word frustration. I think it's more about curiosity. I think that an image becomes a lot more interesting when you don't see what's going on. I think it's this connection, this possibility of interpretation, and So I think it's interesting to talk about something that you do not see. For instance, the suburban images, where you don't have access to what's inside the house or behind the structures, and in the other projects where I did even the photographic installation with the fossil tooth that is buried somewhere in the world. I'm not telling you why, not telling you where. because it's part of this idea of not revealing the location is again something that you do not see but you are aware of, because I informed you through this piece and also through this lecture. This idea of not viewing, again, not knowing what is the subject clearly through this paparazzi method of shooting. Previously, you know, shooting these people on the boat, but they're too far away to actually hear the actual conversation of what they're having. Who knows what type of conversation they were having at that moment? Maybe it was a really important conversation. Maybe it was an important conversation that actually has an impact on all of us. If you want to project this idea all the way through really, really far, it's all within the realms of the possibilities. So for me, there's a lot of intensity and richness in things that you actually don't see and don't hear. So, and now you don't see me. Because the light was shut off at the right moment. So, yeah, was that clear?
Yeah, no, that's good. So just to kind of as a different question, I was wondering what drew you to photography in the first place?
What drew me into photography in the first place?
Why photography? I mean, because you're very clearly a sort of a visual artist, but it's interesting to kind of commence or to come to being a visual artist through photography. I find that it's interesting.
Well, I was always intrigued by things that surrounds me, if I can say so. But when I was when I was 10 years old, my father gave me a camera, and so I was kind of assigned to do all these tourist photos in our family. And for me, it was the first medium that triggered all of this. So yeah, that's the answer. And then I think I was always curious. So I think it's some kind of an accident somehow that it appeared like this, but it could have appeared differently in a different context.
I have one more question. The photographs that you paint on, like this one, or
Yes.
do you show them? Do you show the original and you paint and that you have painted, or do you show a photograph of that image painted?
No. The images are unique pieces. They're painted on, and this is a photograph of a photograph because we don't see the actual oil paint right now. But the real images, the displayed images, there's an exhibition at the moment right now. There's the actual. This image is actually exhibited there. You have this. You have this part here that you can access to quite. If you get closer to the image, you will see the reflective matter. For me, it's important for the viewer to actually see the physical texture and reflective quality of this material, because it brings out the viewer. The viewer is confronted to himself. There's reflection on the actual image, but in these selective parts. So again, this is why I really need to have this physical piece in front of them. So they're all unique pieces.
What are the sizes of these?
These sizes are different, each of them are different, but they're probably about 1.5 meters by 90 centimeters, probably like 40 by 55 inches, something like that.
Well, actually, your work makes me think about an article I read a couple of weeks ago about the photographers who don't take photos anymore. So since this talk is about the boundaries, I mean, it's kind of the limits of photography. How do you think photography is going to evolve in the next years? I mean, what do you think?
The next years?
You know, the next decades. I don't know. How do you think first, photographers, what kind of photography they should be doing? Or since the content itself, or even the idea of photography has changed a lot. And I think that even you mentioned generation, and I think it's very important, it's an important word when we think about visual images and photography, because I believe that most of the audience actually, they became producers. Before we were consumers, and now we just produce. And everyone has an Instagram account,
Yes.
Facebook account, and you photograph. You don't text. I mean, you don't write about what you see or what you think, but you send images.
Yeah.
So that makes me think about the limits of an image, and wow, yeah, it is probably more a personal opinion of what you think about it.
Well, I think that the material itself is transforming. I mean, it's changing because we are into the, we don't need any more photographic paper itself. It's less and less at present. These shoe boxes full of photos are less and less present in our lives. We have hard drives full of images. So I think logically this idea of dematerialization of the image will continue, I think, and it will become concepts and feelings. So I think I don't know in how many years from now, maybe hundreds of years from now, but at some point I think we will just be transmitting emotions, felt emotions by looking at something, and we will not need to transmit a concrete visual replica of this, but we will transmit an emotion of what we felt while we saw this actual scene or image. And it will be some kind of a recordable emotion that or transmittable emotion, so someone will be able to consume this same emotion without actually being in that moment. I think it will be the same for movies as well. We won't need to have a movie playing, it will just be a series of variations of emotion that will be a big concept altogether that will be transmittable somehow by, I don't know what mean it will be at that moment, but that's in the extreme future. But I think that in the near future, photography is still alive, and I don't think it's going to disappear from the photographic paper, because it will be, I mean, painting still exists, so photographic paper will just exist in a different way. We will consider photographic image as an art form more than a medium of documentation. So